Honorable mention 1 goes to Mimi Paris for the Baba.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Mimi Paris, free verse, the Bubba. She was in her late 60s then. I was about 7. She wore a maroon wool dress, brown cotton stockings, low-heeled black leather Oxfords, tiny gold stud earrings, and a wide gold wedding band. Her hair was almost jet black, with just sprinkles of gray. It was parted down the middle, severely brushed back in a tight bun, secured with huge black hairpins. She had a round, pale face with brown flecks, beady, dark eyes, thin, rarely smiling lips. She was short and stocky. Her name was Yetta Levine. She was my grandmother, my Bubba. Always sat on the same kitchen chair when visiting, and rocked, hands clasped around her stomach, speaking to my mother in Yiddish, which I barely understood. She'd leave in an hour or so, never hugging me.
The Honorable mention 2, Rebirth, John Vincent Pelosi.
Rebirth, John Vincent Pelosi. Free verse. It was a cold spring day, with snow still melting its way into the gutters as stout new blades of grass sporadically pushed through the partially frozen earth. The beginnings of leaves peeked from brown branches which had slept naked through the winter, and rays of sun streaming through the blue sky tried its best to warm my face as I stood looking up to it, with closed eyes, outstretched arms, and a smile on my face. It had been a long white winter that wrapped its icy fingers around my throat, almost choking me into submission. I did not give in. I knew the world continued to spin, that clocks continued to march toward March, that though I was frozen in a block of ice, it would finally begin to melt. It was when the first song of the first feathered friend reached my ears that my eyes unlocked and gazed upon the new world that was being born all around me, and I shouted, "Hallelujah," to the heavens.
Second prize, Shirley Smuckler, I Remember When.
Shirley Smuckler, I remember when. I remember when we traveled on bright yellow trolley cars, crowded subways, and taxi cabs. I remember when movies marathoned on and on. Film 1, Film 2, newsreel, cartoon, coming attractions. I remember when World War II ended and neighbors ran from house to house on our block, hugging, kissing, shouting with glee. I remember when we saw the show at Radio City when they charged 99 cents before noon. There were the Rockettes in their bright red and green costumes, the golden organ coming out of the wall of the theater, and the immensity of the theater. I remember being surprised at the car dealership when we went to look, and my dad told me that the bright yellow 1954 Mercury was mine. I also remembered that my friend talked me into putting the top down to see how it worked in the month of February in New York, and it wouldn't go up again. I remember my parents' 25th anniversary celebration with 200 guests. I sang the anniversary song dressed in my full-length pink gown. I remember my brother teaching me how to play ping pong when I was 12 years old and he was 18. When I started to win, he wouldn't play ping pong with me anymore. I remember my first date to go to a Sunday afternoon movie. We got there late, sat 3 rows apart, met kids from our class who passed on stories that we were making out. I remember the snowstorm of 1947 when the snow was piled so high that the trees looked like castles. I remember our first trip to Florida and feeling like the heat outdoors was some kind of magic.
First place is for Stitches, Linda Levine.
Linda Levine, free verse, Stitches. Memories are the threads that stitch together the story of a life. I never did master the art of stitchery, knitting, crocheting, needlepoint. That talent was purely Mom's. Through the magic of her fingers, balls of yarn transformed into vibrant tapestries of love. A lifetime of Grandma Flo's multicolored creations, cherished by family and friends. My mother is dying now. She lingers as cancer's insatiable appetite devours her body, sparing mind and memories. Her 102-year-old lifeline is unraveling, dropping pale stitches that hang from fragile bones. With her sweater wrapped around me like a warm hug, another visit ends. As I leave, pain pours from my mother's eyes into my heart. Unraveling like a ball of yarn, the turnpike unwinds behind me. Ahead, the broken white lines beckon, stitching my way home.
Special contest, Sentimental, Blake Vallon.
Blake Vallon, this is blank verse, Sentimental. The swing band concert featured old jazz greats. My parents' tunes played back when I was young. Remembered Gene Krupa on the snare drums. Remembered Glenn Miller and Artie Shaw. My dad had all those albums stacked up high. That record collection, his pride and joy. I still see Mom and Dad in step as one while we were supposed to be asleep, and they swayed and rocked to trumpet, flute, and sax. The music called me down to sneak and peek. Remembered they played Moonlight Serenade, Cole Porter, Count Basie, and Glenn Miller. But when they played Begin the Begin, then what moments divine, what rapture serene, sent tears free-falling from my heartstrings plucked, because it was the song my dad most loved.